I am a Dodger fan. It was a difficult week, y'all. This season, I was excited to take my boys to a Dodger game. We went and found some cheap tickets because they were playing a team that they weren't very good. You might have heard of them, the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Dodgers destroyed the Diamondbacks on that day, and then they got destroyed by the Diamondbacks in the playoffs. I found out after we hired Pastor Tao that he is a Giants fan. I have been to a Giants game, beautiful stadium, and wow, do they say some things about us, Dodgers. I think I can say us. Right? They like to say that we are fair weather fans who show up in the third inning and leave in the seventh inning and play with beach balls during games. They like to say that every time people in LA say something, they put a "the" in front of it. Take the 101 to the 405, right? And they say hella in front of everything. Have you noticed that? Who does that? The is correct, but hella is not, right? And so in the midst of all of that, I just like to say, remember Kirk Gibson in the World Series, limping around the bases? We say things about people if we don't like them, don't we? We tell stories about them. We say, well, they always do this. Isn't that wrong? We do this. Do you think this is new? Is this a distinctly American thing? Is it from the 20th century or the 21st century? No. We see this story making and name calling even in the Bible. Even in the Bible. So as much as we like to think, oh no, this would never show up in the Bible, it's there, friends, and we're going to play with it a little bit today, because today's story, I think, is trying to be playful with us. Here's a hint that we know we are dealing with a story that may be based on a historical story, but there's been some liberty in the telling of the story. The name of the two sons, the husbands who die in this story, are Mahlon and Chilion. Mahlon, the name means sick, right? In the ancient world, when you would tell a story, you would name someone by the role that they're playing in the story, right? So this guy's name is Sickerson, right? Of course he's going to die in the story, right? And then there's Chilion. Chilion means destruction or death. Of course, he's going to die in the story, right? The guy's name is Death McDetherby, essentially, right? Nobody names their kids this, right? You might be upset at your parents for what they named you, but they didn't name you Sick and Death, did they? This is what's happening in our story. We know there's something going on here trying to get our attention. And so the Israelites detested the Moabites. They were like Dodger fans and Giant fans. And they were geographically close. They thought there was some shared history, sort of like Giant fans and Dodger fans. So if we look in the book of Genesis, chapter 19, we see a story of the Israelites and how they say the Moabites and the Ammonites, another hated rival of theirs, how they started. It's a story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? The world's coming to an end, and so there are three people, Lot and his two daughters. They escape to a cave to hide out from the world getting destroyed, right? And they think the world is ending, so the two daughters get their father drunk and they sleep with him because we have to start the world over. That's how the Ammonites started with one woman, and the Moabites started with another. You tell a story about people you don't like. You say they started with drunk, incestuous relationships. And what is Ruth? Who is Ruth in this story? She is a Moabite. The Bible is just saying, come here, right? The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23, Moses says that the Moabites cannot participate in the assembly of the Lord. Even to the 10th generation, they cannot be a part of the assembly. Don't marry with those people. And who is Ruth? A Moabite who marries an Israelite. The Bible's come to play today with us. The Spirit is just hovering over this text for us. When the Israelites are trying to make sense of why bad things happen to them, they're coming back from the Babylonian exile, and they're trying to say, Mary Lynn, why do bad things happen to us? Right? They're trying to figure that out. Where do we go wrong? Why does God cause this to happen to us? Things that we ask about ourselves, right? And there are voices from Ezra and Nehemiah. Ezra was a scribe. Nehemiah was in charge of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. And their reason for why bad things happened was because of foreigners. Foreigners were to blame. That's why bad things happen to us. And who is Ruth in this story? A foreigner. This notion of blaming foreigners is an old, broken idea. Ruth is written at the same time as Ezra and Nehemiah are writing. They're in conversation together. One group is blaming foreigners, and Ruth is over here going, actually, let me tell you a story about a foreigner. See what's happening here? It's so much fun. And Ruth actually is written with Nehemiah and with Ezra, but Ruth acts as if it's written in the time of Judges. So it's a really old story. It tries to jump ahead of these voices that want to blame foreigners. And so we have a story about how an Israelite man married a Moabite woman, as people are saying it's all because of the Moabites why bad things happen to us. And this spirit hovering over Ruth is saying, foreigners have been with us since the beginning. Saying, you know what? You want to blame other people for your problems? That is not the path forward. We're seeing this in our day, right, with the rise of Christian nationalism, saying the reason why things aren't the way they used to be, why we aren't as great as we used to be, are because of foreigners. It's happening today, too, isn't it? Those voices like Nehemiah and with Ezra are speaking strongly. The world is changing, and there are those people who like to say it's all bad and it's those people's fault. And then there's Ruth saying that is an old, broken idea, and there is no future in that idea. Where is it, friends, where you are seeing this desire to blame foreigners or other people for problems? These ideas are still alive and cooking. We need the spirit of Ruth in our midst, friends. Where is it where you're sitting here going, things were so great until this person came into my life? I know I've done that. I want to blame one person or one group of people for things, but there is no future in that. That's called scapegoating. And as I think about the cross, I think about how I find life in the one who was scapegoated and blamed for problems. And one of the many, many lessons and teachings of the resurrection is that way is broken and we need to be done with it. Where are you seeking to blame other people? Where is it where you're seeing us as a society and as a world blaming a minority, a subgroup for all of our problems? That's an old, broken idea, friends. Our only path forward is a way of inclusion that I see in the story of Ruth. Our only way forward is saying hatred and bigotry and closed-mindedness, those don't work. Because the Israelites would have been wiped out if it wasn't for Ruth. We need people who are different than us. That's what makes this story so beautiful and so powerful. Friends, may you hear the echoes of Ezra and Nehemiah and be willing to call them out, to see how there's no future. But most importantly, may you remember Ruth. May you remember how we need Moabites and how blaming and scapegoating other people is a dead-end road. Please join me in a moment of prayer.